The courtroom was silent, not the ordinary silence of respect, but the heavy, suffocating silence of dread. Everyone's eyes were locked on the defendants, men accused of orchestrating a terrorist attack that had claimed dozens of innocent lives. They had sat smugly through most of the trial, whispering to one another, smirking at testimony, and glaring at the families of victims. But today was different. Today, they would hear the words that no one could escape, not even them. The judge was about to pronounce death. And the question that gripped everyone in that courtroom was simple. How would they react when justice finally cornered them? Would they remain defiant? Would they break? Or would they show, for the first time, that they were human? This is the story of terrorists reacting to death sentences. It began on a warm spring evening. A bustling train station, crowded with travelers, parents with children, workers heading home, students returning from school. That's when the explosions ripped through the concourse. Shards of glass tore through the air, smoke billowed, and screams echoed across the platform. In seconds, chaos consumed what had been ordinary life. Dozens were killed instantly, many more wounded. Investigators would later describe the scene as one of the most horrifying in the country's history. And within hours, a terrorist group claimed responsibility. But the police were already closing in. CCTV cameras, phone records, and a trail of careless mistakes led them straight to the men behind the attack. Within 2 weeks, special forces raided a safe house. The suspects were dragged out in handcuffs, defiant, shouting their ideology even as armored vehicles surrounded them. The trial was one of the most highly publicized in modern memory. Security was tight, metal detectors, bomb-sniffing dogs, armed guards at every entrance. Families of victims filled the benches, some clutching photos of loved ones, others too numb to cry anymore. The defendants? They looked almost pleased with the attention. They laughed, whispered, and in moments of testimony, even rolled their eyes. One of them went as far as taunting a victim's family member in the gallery. The prosecutors laid out a devastating case. Phone calls, explosives residue, financial transactions, even manifestos written by the accused. Every detail painted a picture not just of guilt, but of cold, calculated evil. The defense tried to argue they were pawns, that they had been brainwashed, manipulated by higher powers. But the evidence was overwhelming. And so, after months of testimony, the jury returned, guilty on every count. But the real tension came at sentencing. The courthouse was overflowing. Reporters lined the steps, broadcasting every moment live. Inside, the atmosphere was electric, charged with anger, grief, and anticipation. The judge entered. The room rose, then sat. He began with a solemn recounting of the crimes, the lives lost, the children left without parents, the community scarred forever. Every word landed heavy, like the tolling of a bell. And then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. "You are hereby sentenced," the judge said, pausing as if to let the weight sink in, "to death." What happened next would never be forgotten. The first defendant, the one who had smirked through the trial, suddenly went pale. His chest heaved, his lips trembled. He tried to speak, but no words came. His bravado cracked in an instant. He slumped into his chair, muttering to himself, his eyes wide with fear. The second defendant reacted differently. He shot to his feet, shouting over the judge, "This is injustice. You will all pay for this." His voice boomed, echoing in the courtroom, but the guards wrestled him down, shackles clanging against the floor as families in the gallery gasped. The third sat frozen, staring blankly into the distance. No emotion, no rage, no fear, just emptiness, as though his spirit had left his body the moment the sentence was read. But the fourth, he broke down completely. Tears streamed down his face as he begged for mercy, his hands clasped as though in prayer. "Please? I don't want to die," he cried, his words shaking the entire courtroom. For the families of victims, it was the first time they had seen the terrorists look human, and the first time they realized justice could truly bring a sense of closure. The reaction sparked debate across the nation. Some argued that death was too easy a punishment, that they should rot in prison, haunted by their crimes. Others felt the sentence was the only way to match the severity of their actions. But one thing was undeniable. In that courtroom, for the first time, the power dynamic shifted. No longer were the terrorists in control. No longer were they feared. They were just men, fragile, terrified, and powerless in the face of justice. Reporters captured the reactions, and the images spread across headlines. The defiant outbursts, the tears, the collapse. It all painted a picture that even those who claimed to be fearless warriors were not immune to fear when confronted with their own mortality. Years later, the story of that trial continues to be told. Survivors still remember the screams at the train station, the smell of smoke, the chaos. Families still feel the emptiness of loved ones lost. But they also remember the sentencing, the moment when justice, however imperfect, gave them a measure of peace. The terrorists were executed in the years that followed. Their names faded, but the story of their collapse remained. For many, it served as a reminder. No matter how loud the threats, no matter how destructive the violence, justice has a way of stripping away illusions and leaving behind only truth. Courtrooms are supposed to be places of order, of calm deliberation, where justice is measured and fair. But in moments like these, they become something more. They become theaters of human emotion, where masks fall away and the reality of life and death comes crashing down. The terrorists had thought themselves untouchable. They had walked into that train station, convinced they were making history. But in the end, history remembered something else. Not their power, not their ideology, but their fear. This was the day terrorists reacted to death sentences, and the world saw that even those who spread terror can be broken by justice.